I didn't really like it in the beginning because I was super paranoid and
Right.
I thought like things were happening that weren't happening. I was basically tripping out.
Hmm.
But then when I was 14, I started doing cocaine and ecstasy, and I really liked that.
Mm. Hello, everybody. My name is Pej. I'm an interventionist. I help people with addiction, with alcoholism, and with mental health problems. I'm here today with my friend Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
Nice to have you here today. So, Michelle has a hell of a story. Like, I guess we've known each other for a few years, but we've gotten to know each other better in just the last few months. Um, Michelle, where did you grow up?
I grew up in South Orange County,
Okay.
um, born and raised. I've lived here my whole life.
Okay. And then how was it growing up? Like, what kind of a family did you come from?
Um, well, I lived in a very nice neighborhood in a gated community, but I came from a very broken home. My parents divorced when I was 6 years old, and I had one older brother. And I ended up staying and living with my dad. And then 2 years later, well, actually, let me tell you, like, my mom was very successful. She ran a very successful freight broking company. And then after she divorced my dad, because their relationship was really physically abusive, she ended up meeting somebody from out of state and started using meth. And she ended up losing her, like, everything that she had, and us too, me and my brother. So my dad tried everything that he could to just keep us away from my mom because she was in and out of jail and prison my whole life. And but my dad wasn't a very present father. He really didn't have any loving or caring qualities. He was just kind of there, checking boxes and just, I guess, maybe trying to do the best that he could, but he really just wasn't like an emotionally supportive person.
Hmm.
And when he ended up remarrying when I was 12, I got a stepmom and also an older stepsister and an older stepbrother, and they hated me.
Why?
I really don't know. I think, like, it was just the ages that they were. And
And you weren't an actual family member?
yeah, so, but they actually, like, got along with my older brother, and but they would gang up on me. And so I kind of started, and my stepmom didn't really like me either. She said that I was acting out. So I started turning to drugs and alcohol to get away from that situation because it was just an uncomfortable place for me to be. So I started relying on hanging out with older friends and doing, like, the first time I started drinking, I was 12.
What'd you drink? Beer or hard liquor?
Vodka.
Oh, straight vodka.
Yeah, I drank a bottle of Smirnoff and I got alcohol poisoning.
You drank the whole bottle by yourself?
Yeah,
And how old were you?
12.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had alcohol poisoning, and what happened? Were you hospitalized?
No, I was just at this girl's house, like, passed out and throwing up all over myself all night long. And then for 24 hours, I was just so deathly ill. But I liked it, honestly. Like, I liked that, like, the effect of being drunk. So that was, like, my introduction to it. Yeah.
And then when you said you got into drugs too, like, when did that happen? Around the same time?
So the first time I smoked weed, I was 13 years old. I did it in 8th grade out on my lunch break, and I didn't really like it in the beginning because I was super paranoid and
Right.
I thought like things were happening that weren't happening. I was basically tripping out. But then when I was 14, I started doing cocaine and ecstasy, and I really liked that. Yeah.
And being that young, like, who the hell had cocaine and ecstasy?
So a lot of my friends were older.
They were older, like you
Yeah.
said. Okay.
So I had friends that were 18 years old, girls and guys. And then I had a friend, and her mom was dating a guy half her age, and like she was like the cool mom. So she would let all of us go to her.
She was that mom.
Yeah,
That everyone wants to go to that house and hang out around.
Right.
That
So
woman.
we would all go to her house,
Mhm.
and that's where she would buy us beer
Mhm.
or buy us alcohol, and we would drink, and we would get drugs from her boyfriend's friends,
Mhm.
because her boyfriend worked at a liquor store.
Mm.
So we were able to go there and buy cigarettes and alcohol.
Perfect for a bunch of teens that were just wanting to have fun.
Yeah.
Plus, we were hanging out with some of the older ones, so they're already like well advanced in drinking and using.
Right.
Okay. Were you out of the house a lot during that time?
Yes. So what had happened in my home life was when my dad remarried, within a year and a half, my stepmom wanted to ship me to boarding school in Florida, and my dad didn't want to pay for that.
Okay.
So he had kicked me out, and I was moving from family member to family member, like my grandparents to my uncles to my friends' parents' house to these people's house. I moved 9 times in 6 months, just from place to place.
Were you using the whole time
Yes.
and drinking?
Yes. And then finally, I had met somebody whose mom did drugs with my mom and told me and got me reconnected with my mom, who I hadn't talked to in 8 years.
And where was she?
She was
Out of state?
no, she had just gotten out of jail, and she was at this place called Cooper Fellowship.
I know Cooper Fellowship. I remember them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she was there, and she was pregnant. And she was about to have a baby, but she had gotten a deal from the judge where she got 5 years formal probation in lieu of a prison sentence, but she had to do all these different programs in order to change her life. So he gave her basically one last chance.
Wow.
Because she was pregnant.
And they had her at Cooper Fellowship pregnant?
Yes.
Oh, they allowed that?
Yeah, and then
Interesting.
they switched her to, I think it was called Heritage House.
Well, I know Heritage House.
Yes.
That's a place that would take mothers with children, or pregnant mothers too.
Right. This was like 18 years ago too.
Okay.
So so I ended up reconnecting with her, and I was staying at friends' houses, and my mom decided that she wanted to have me back. And I was a little bit nervous, but I thought like I could kind of relate to my mom at this point, because like I was kind of not going down the right path, and like she was a lot more understanding and like wanting to be in my life, whereas my dad wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. So I was just kind of seeking that love, and that attention in some kind of family unit.
Sure.
So I ended up moving back in with my mom after she had gotten out of the program that she was at. She was in she got put on assisted living, and she got an apartment down here in the worst neighborhood, but in South County, so she could be with me and I could go to high school.
Right.
And then she had her baby, and she had no time for me. She was so emotionally unstable. She actually didn't work steps. She was just dry, and she was just trying to get by for the courts and stuff. And she was so stressed out that she had lost everything to drugs and alcohol, and she just couldn't get past that for a really, really long time. Even to this day, she's still not like emotionally well. But anyways, so I was in this situation with my mom, who was taking care of this baby and never around, and she let me basically have free range. So I was allowed to leave for weeks at a time. And as long as I told her that I was going to school, then she was okay with it. So I would be going to these people's houses and getting loaded. And
how old were you during that time?
That was when I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah, so I would just hop on the city bus and just go to different places and be running around and dabbling in starting my journey into my alcoholism, I guess.
Okay, so did you graduate high school?
I did. So
on time?
I actually graduated early. So my mom ended up moving every single year. So I went to 4 different high schools. So that was also really challenging. But the last high school that I went to was an independent study called Access. And then I did graduate early from there. And then I went straight to work.
Okay, because you're a bright woman. I know this about you.
Thank you.
So perhaps going to 4 different high schools, you got to have all these different experiences and learn. But I mean, I ended up at one of those types of schools too, the secondary educational learning facility for people that don't can't survive in the regular high schools
Right.
for
'Cause
whatever reason.
I started ditching a lot of school too.
That's why we end up in those other schools.
Yeah.
Okay, or many other reasons too. I mean, it could be plethora of reasons. But okay, so you graduated high school, and you said then you were on your own, starting what, like a professional journey, or what were you doing then?
So when I was 17, that was when I first moved out from my mom's. I've actually never gone back. So that was like when
And
I
you didn't even
started being an
emancipate yourself.
adult.
You were just moving out on your own.
No. So I was waitressing at 2 different places,
Mhm.
and I saved up enough money to buy a little truck, and then I was renting a room from somebody.
Mhm.
And
At 17?
yes,
Oh wow. So down the line, like throughout your from when you turned 18 and you were in your young adulthood, well, obviously 18 still a teenager, but like when you got into your 20s, then what? Like, were you
so
was your family involved in your life at all?
no. So once I left my dad's, he didn't talk to me until I was 21 years old.
Mhm.
So it was like 8 years,
Mhm.
and but I really wanted to have a relationship with him. So I thought if I went to school and got a nice place and
Mhm.
had a good job and
Mhm.
everything, like that he would accept me. And so I put myself through college, and
On your own.
yes,
That's impressive.
thank you.
Wow.
So I went to community college for 2 years, and then I went to Cal State Fullerton,
Mhm.
and then I had my own apartment,
Mhm.
and I reached out to my dad and basically told him, like, this is where I'm at. Look at all of the things I've accomplished.
Mhm.
Like, do you want to be a part of my life? And ultimately he did, but he never really, he would let me come over on Christmas Day. So that was something though,
Yeah.
at least. It kind of made me feel like this was the first time in 8 years I had seen my stepmom and my step siblings. I had a relationship privately with my older brother, but
Real brother or step?
my real brother,
Okay.
yeah, because he also had a relationship with my mom.
Mhm.
But so my dad did come back in my life, but he was just never present. Like, he really didn't know like what schools I went to. He didn't know what kind of job that I worked. He didn't know who my friends were, what I was doing, where I lived, and he
Mhm.
didn't really care. It was just really surface conversations, and I feel like he was trying to save face by just being there now, saying like now he's in the picture. But so I have a lot of that was like a lot of resentment that I had was,
Towards
like,
your father.
right, towards my dad. And I also had some towards my mom for like not being there for me my whole life because she chose drugs.
Mhm.
So like my whole life I've just kind of had these issues with abandonment and
Mhm.
like feeling unloved and not worthy, and I'm not deserving of anything. So that was like a big reason why I started using, because it was like an escape from that, and then also the social aspect of it. Like, I was getting the love and attention that I was looking for
From the circle of friends that were having fun
right.
and using, and you could numb out.
Yes. So
When did you start getting in trouble?
the first time I was arrested, I was 14 years old.
Mhm.
I did go to juvenile hall for about a month. It was for a fight that I got into, and then I also had cocaine on me.
At 14.
Yes.
Okay. And then, I mean, I've been to juvie too, the same one, right here in Orange County.
Yes.
Right.
So
And
I
then-
did go there.
And then what? I know the experience. I know how it feels to be in there. It's hell. I think it's worse than jail.
Yeah, it was very challenging because
Yeah.
I was so young.
Mhm.
But actually, I was in there with one of my best friends. Like, we were just on the same path.
Okay.
So that made it a little bit better. But no, it was not good. And that placed me on juvenile probation.
Okay.
So then I had to check in. So my mom was on probation. We would go to probation together.
Wow.
So that was something that we bonded over, I guess.
Wow.
But so I was on juvenile probation, and I did not do well on it because of my drug use.
Mhm.
I couldn't pass drug tests. So I was always on house arrest. I was always trying to just get some kind of alternative than going back to jail.
Mhm.
But when I was 16, I had just messed up so many times that I did 4 months. for a violation for drugs.
Okay.
I can't remember. I think it was ecstasy.
Wow.
That one put me in. So
Okay. And then throughout your young adulthood, like your 20s, was there more arrests, other problems that you ran into?
yeah, so I started getting arrested for DUI when I was 17.
Alcohol DUI or other substances?
Alcohol DUI. I had a fake ID and I was going to different clubs in LA and bars in Newport Beach.
Mhm.
So
Driving, obviously, to get DUIs.
yes,
So you were out drinking and driving.
that was my favorite thing to do
Why?
because I honestly, I like the music. I could smoke cigarettes. I just like to travel and drive.
You were just like a free spirit, just doing what you wanted to do.
Yes,
Okay, so first a DUI, first one was how old?
17.
Okay, and then at 17 you got a DUI. That's not good as a minor.
Right.
Whew. Okay, and then how many other DUIs throughout your life?
So I am 31 now,
Okay.
and I have had a total of 7 DUIs.
My God. That's a lot of DUIs.
I know.
Okay, so as a result of, I mean, you've obviously continue to keep drinking and driving, right?
Yes.
Did you ever think along the way, like the first and the second one, like I'm not ever going to do that again, and I got to really behave and like not ever go through all of this again?
Absolutely not.
Really? Okay.
No.
The first few times that you got DUIs, were you incarcerated or was it just a quick little jail stint, like for a week or a couple days or something like that?
So the first one was just an overnight. I just stayed in Newport Beach police station and got picked up by my mom. Had to come pick me up because I was a minor.
Okay.
But then I did get one 6 months later when I turned 18.
Okay. Which is still a minor, like you're not supposed to be drinking
Right.
or driving, let alone.
Right. I didn't have a license either.
Mhm.
So the DUI really didn't faze me at all. I just felt like I had just gotten caught
Right.
and it would never happen to me again.
Okay.
And I didn't really understand the severity of it or how common it is.
Mhm.
I was book smart, but I wasn't very like legally smart, I guess you could say.
Right.
I also had a fuck you attitude. I thought I was above the law.
Mhm.
I had been on probation for years at this point already, and I hated the law. And I
Okay.
just thought those things didn't really apply to me. So I did continue to make the same mistakes. And then my first DUI as an adult, so when I was 18, that one I did go to jail for 26 days for because I lied about my name.
Okay.
So that's
You used somebody else's name,
I did. I used the name on my ID.
which was a fake ID.
Yes.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay, so then the next DUI, when was that?
So the next one I got was when I was 22 years old.
And at this point, that was the third one.
Yes.
And was jail sentences becoming more, or were you looking at prison time?
So at this point, I did have a little bit of money,
Mhm.
and I spent a lot of money on a lawyer,
Mm.
and I told him I could not go to jail because I was looking at, I think, 2 months. But I was like, it was 4 months, but 2 months would be halftime. So
Right.
that's how much I would have ended up actually doing. So
Mm.
I ended up spending a bunch of money on this attorney and I got house arrest.
Mm.
And I also had to wear an alcohol monitoring bracelet for a year, which was scram. So at this point, my cocaine, marijuana, and opiate pill, I was taking opiate pills like Norcos, Oxy, Roxy,
Mhm.
Opana, Vicodin, all of those things. That's when that really took off because I wasn't allowed to drink.
So the detector was only going to be detecting for alcohol.
Right.
That's why you kind of just resorted to the other stuff because you knew that you wouldn't get caught for that.
Yes.
Now, other DUIs, were they always alcohol related or were they other drug related to DUIs?
I have 6 that are alcohol related and then 1 that was fentanyl related.
Okay. And that one happened at what age?
That one happened when I was 30.
30, which was about a year ago, last year.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. Because obviously fentanyl, there's a major fentanyl craze right now. you didn't, I mean, from what the sounds of it, you were more of an alcoholic.
Right.
However, if drugs were there, you'd do them too. But, you know, when you first ever encountered fentanyl, did you know it was fentanyl?
Yes.
Did you not care?
No.
Why?
Well, I was not emotionally stable, and I was buying fentanyl because I was trying to overdose.
Because you didn't care if you died.
Right. That was how I thought that I was going to die.
Okay.
I
So,
was buying it for that reason.
so it's fair to say that throughout your 20s and all the way into your 30s, due to whatever lifestyle that you had and the traumas that you encountered and all the different things that have happened to you, you just didn't really care anymore. Like, it doesn't matter if I get a DUI, it doesn't matter if I croak. Like, it doesn't even matter.
Right.
Right. And so the fentanyl, did you overdose? Is that how they found you, or like the DUI part?
So I had just moved.
Mhm.
I had just left my ex-boyfriend, and I was emotional about that. I
Mhm.
had a bunch of stuff in my car, like all my belongings, and I was moving to a new house. And I wasn't very familiar yet with my new neighborhood.
Mhm.
I'd only lived there for like 2 days.
Right.
So even though it was still local, I wasn't totally familiar how to get there. And I was smoking right before I started my car and drove, and
Mhm.
10 minutes later I passed out in the car and while driving, and I went through a red light at 50 miles an hour.
And did you crash?
I did. Somebody hit me. So, well, like I went
'Cause you
through
ran the light.
Yeah, so somebody was going 50 miles the other direction and
Did they
ran
T-bone
into
you?
my car. They hit like my front tire. Both cars were totaled.
Oh my God.
And this happened at 11:30 in the morning on a Tuesday.
And the police showed up, obviously.
Right away, the ambulance was called because I was unconscious, and so the ambulance was there, the fire truck was there, the police came, and the police actually knew me
Mhm.
too. They were like, "Oh, here she is again," because I had been arrested maybe a month earlier for getting high in my car. Somebody had called the cops on me.
Fentanyl?
Yes.
Okay. So after this incident and all that, then you ended up back in jail, and then you went to prison?
So for this time, the DUI before that was my first time that I actually went to prison. I was sentenced to 16 months with half,
Mhm.
and then I had gotten out. And then this last fentanyl DUI happened 6 weeks later.
Mhm.
I was sentenced to prison, but they did let me, by the time I had gotten sentenced, I had already done so much of my time because I was actually trying to fight this case.
Mhm.
Because a drug DUI is a lot different than an alcohol DUI.
Sure.
But by the time I was actually sentenced, I had done the majority of my 16 months.
Mhm.
So they let me just do a local stay, like a local prison term. So I didn't actually have to go back upstate this last time.
Mhm. So as far as prison time, like when you were there, was it just full on misery? I mean, like this just sucks in all different ways, shapes, and forms.
Right. I mean, I think jail is really one of the most awful things anybody could ever experience. But prison was a whole nother level.
And was there drugs there that you saw?
Yeah, there was a lot of drugs. I actually was doing drugs when I went to prison.
Okay, and so how are they getting drugs in there?
That's a great question.
You didn't even know?
I would assume that it was coming from some of the cops. I know sometimes things come in the mail. That's very common.
Mhm.
But there was a lot of drugs, so I think somebody was bringing them in.
Fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, meth, everything. Weed.
Everything.
And the guards didn't smell that?
The guards didn't care.
Really?
They knew what was going on. Yeah.
Did people have cell phones in there?
Yes.
And they sneaked those in too?
Yes.
Okay. With Wi-Fi and everything?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so obviously when I say miserable, I know like we've talked, off camera, like you've told me, and I just try to put myself in your shoes, like just being there, the stories, what you've said, like, did you really feel like you have nothing to live for anymore? Or did you actually have some hope that you're going to get out and change your life?
So the first time I went, in the beginning, I was really hopeless, and I just wanted to get through this sentence. So when I was in actual prison, and I just wanted so badly to get out of there. I didn't ever really show my emotions that I was scared, but I was terrified for my life. So I wasn't exactly like hopeful that when I got out I was gonna have this amazing life, but I definitely had promised myself when I was in there that I would never put myself in this situation and be back. And I ultimately, 6 weeks later, I put myself right back in that situation.
In that time you stayed for how long, you said?
That time I stayed for 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
And then when you got out, which was when?
January 17th.
Which is just a few months ago.
That was it's been a little over 2 months.
Second time you went, you stayed sober, or you did stuff in there?
The second time I stayed sober, that was when I had basically this realization that I have to change. And I had a taste of sobriety before.
Because you'd been in recovery before a few times throughout your life.
Right. So I had kind of just gone to some meetings here and there when I was younger, but I never really had any desire to get sober. But my 5th DUI actually put me in DUI court. So then I was mandated to start going to meetings every single day.
Sure.
And when I was doing that program, I managed to get 2 years and 8 months. So even after I discharged the program, I was able to get sober. But in that time, you know, I really like dove into what meetings are, what recovery is, what a sponsor is, like what is a higher power, and fellowship, service, all of the different things. And I did fall in love with it. But my life actually did get substantially better. You know, I was happy. I had the things, like I had a good job. I had a nice place. I had everything. But I wasn't exactly spiritually fit. I would do the program. I would make the program my own program, and I would run things by my sponsor, and then things that she would tell me, I would just kind of be like, if it wasn't something that I thought applied to me, like I wouldn't even really consider it. There was really no God in my life at this point.
So when I first saw you, when you first got out, you looked like you were, you know, kind of unapproachable in a sense. Like you had been through some stuff. You didn't look happy. You looked very like depressed, mute, quiet, didn't want to talk much. But I've seen a major shift in your attitude towards life. Like you seem like you're really happy, like you're in good spirits. And that's in a few short months. I mean, it's been like 3 months, right? Since you got out, I believe.
It's been 2.
2. Okay. Well, then 2 months. Then wow, in 2 months, it's just nice to see like where you are right now. So there's a lot of people that watch these videos and they learn from you. And sometimes people's parents are watching this stuff too, to see like if their daughter is going through something, like when they can hear somebody else's experience, we want to give them hope, obviously, because people can get better.
Right.
Anybody can get better, right? As long as they become willing, as long as their families don't enable them to the point where they end up like this. But there's plenty of women out there that got a lot of DUIs, that did a lot of drinking or did a lot of drugs, and not all of them end up going to prison. Like this is, for a woman like you that was raised around where you were raised, it's not typical for this to happen a lot, but it happens. It's reality. It's a reality. It can happen to anybody. So for anybody that's out there, what kind of hope can you put into the universe as far as based off of like what you just went over your whole life story, and what kind of inspiration can you give to others?
Okay. Well, I think when I had first been introduced into AA, like I was told to like surround myself with people who are actually, doing the deal and working a good program, and like those people were gonna be like supportive and always be there for me. And like I did really find true friends. For me, that was and they became my family, because I don't really have a family. And like for me, that was like probably the biggest reason why I came back, because these people wanted me to get well more than I did. So then, you know, when I had just gotten arrested, I like had a realization like that, you know, when I did have some sobriety, I was really happy. I had people that loved and cared about me. I had people that even looked up to me, and I really didn't think I had anything to offer, you know, anybody. And so I started praying. I feel like that was when I hit like my real true point of surrender, you know, like that I just don't know anything. Like I'm not in control of everything. Every single time I try to control things, it turns into a complete disaster. And I just need to give it to God and like have God guide me through this process. And then, that worked, you know. I wasn't totally happy, but you know, I was at least like getting through it, and that did give me hope. And then when I got out, I immediately started going back to meetings. It was the first thing that I did, and my friends from AA even picked me up from jail. They let me stay at their treatment center. They told me that I needed to get into a sober living. I did not want to do that because I've lived alone for the last 11 or 12 years, and living with a bunch of people and in a structured house, rules, you know, curfew, like I just thought this was going to be way too much. But honestly, it was one of the best decisions that I made, because I wasn't stable enough for myself to just be making those kind of executive decisions. So like I started taking all the suggestions and running things by every single person that I knew. And then the next thing that I was supposed to do was to get a sponsor, you know, and actually get completely honest with somebody, you know, about everything that I've gone through. And I did that right away. And then she started giving me other suggestions, you know, on different just like life decisions that I needed to make, like going into IOP, like staying at this house, like getting a get well job, like all of these different things. And I didn't want to do basically any of these things, but I did, and all of them has been such a gift to like my serenity and peace. Like I can say now, like I'm truly happy, like I do have peace, like I don't worry about things that I used to worry about. And like it's all just because I took contrary action. I ran things by other people, and then I just dove into this program tenfold. Like I was going to meetings every single day, and I still do. I go to meetings 4 to 5 times a week. I do have IOP and a really big work schedule, but like my whole day is something is always consisting of program. And because without my sobriety, like I lose everything that I've ever cared about. So I mean, if that like can give anybody some kind of guidance and hope, you know, like if I can do it, like I definitely think you can do it, because I just came from such a dark place where I literally wanted to die every single day and just killing like the people, killing myself, and just and really disappointing like all the people around me. And like now I'm like free from that, but I don't feel like I'm totally safe forever from that. Like it takes work. Like I have to do work every single day. I have to, you know, to check my motives, check where, like, you know, if I'm just stuck in self, like what I'm actually doing every single day to just make sure I stay on track and I don't lose this, and like, you know, not forget where I came from.
No, I love it. I love it. That's so powerful.
Thank you.
It's what an honor and a privilege to have you here today, and also just to have a friendship with you, because I see what you're doing, and I think you'll be able to help a lot of people. You already are helping a lot of people. Like you said before, you were helping people, you didn't even know it. You are helping people now, and I watch it every day, and good job.
Thank you.
Good job. But thanks for coming out today and being on this video. I know at first you didn't know what you were going to talk about, but you definitely carry a message of depth and weight and hope. So if you or somebody that you know is struggling with addiction or alcoholism, you can always call me. My name is Pej, 310-596-9356.